The storm rolled over the dead junk planet, shaking old metal towers and scattering dust through the air like ghosts. Ethan tightened the hood of his jacket and slammed the rusted door of his salvage truck. It was another long day of pulling copper from broken alien machines, but now he just wanted warmth, a protein bar, and sleep. The junkyard was endless. Rusted ship parts, broken androids, torn fabric, and sharp glass stretched across hills of forgotten war. No one lived here anymore, only scavengers like him. He had just taken a bite of his dinner when he heard something strange, a sound. Not metal, not wind, a voice, small, high, crying. He froze. He held his breath and listened again. Please help, Mama. He stood up slowly, eyes scanning the junk outside his truck window. Nothing moved. The wind blew harder, but now he was sure that was a child's voice, and it was coming from the eastern pile. Near the crushed fighter ships. Ethan grabbed his flashlight and a small energy pistol. He didn't like trouble, but he didn't like walking away from cries either. His boots crunched over metal and glass as he climbed over the sharp piles. The sound came again, clearer now. Please, take me and Mama. He reached a dented alien escape pod, half buried under scrap. Its side was cracked open, smoke rising from its inner core. He crawled close and aimed the light inside, and there, curled in a corner, was a girl. Her skin was pale blue and glowing slightly in the dark. Her long white hair stuck to her face. It was tiny, no more than 8 or 9 by human age. She had cuts on her arms and legs, but her big purple eyes stared right at him. Human, she whispered. Please, my Mama, help us. Ethan's heart tightened. Behind her, deeper inside the pod, lay a woman taller, her body still, skin cold. She looked like the girl, but older. Her lips were cracked and her chest barely moved. Ethan asked softly, "What's your name?" "Aliri," the girl replied. "Please, she won't wake up." Ethan reached in and gently picked her up. She was too light. Her arms wrapped around his neck. He laid her down on a soft cloth by the pod's door and climbed in to check the woman. He touched her neck. There was a faint pulse. Still alive, he moved quickly. First, he carried Aliri to his truck. Then he came back for the mother, lifting her with care and placing her across the seats. Rain started falling, cold, dirty rain that stung the skin. He drove back fast. Inside his truck, the heater buzzed. He dried Aliri with a towel and gave her a warm drink. She drank slowly, never looking away from her mother's face. "What happened to you?" Ethan asked. "Ship was taken by bad ones," she whispered. "Mama ran with me, they followed. She crashed us here, we hid. Then the pod stopped working. No light, no food." Ethan looked at the woman. Her skin was freezing. He wrapped her in a blanket and placed heating pads on her chest and arms. Aliri watched everything, quiet, scared, and shaking. "I don't know if I can help," Ethan said, "but I won't leave you too." She nodded, then moved close and held his hand. "You came," she said softly. "No one else did." Ethan didn't answer. He just sat beside her, watching the storm flash outside. Something felt wrong, something deep in his gut. If slavers brought down their ship, they might still be searching. He checked the pod's remains again with a drone. It had alien tech, advanced systems, maybe from one of the old empires, not junk. This was valuable, which meant someone powerful might want it back. And the girl Alia's eyes glowed like stars. He had never seen anything like it. She wasn't just a child. She was something rare. The junkyard, once silent, now felt like it was listening. Ethan whispered to himself, "What did I just bring into my life?" But Aliri had already fallen asleep against his arm, her breathing slow, her hand still holding his dot outside. The wind howled through towers of rust and steel. The night wasn't silent anymore. Something was coming. The sky outside Ethan's outpost turned yellow as the storm faded into thick, silent clouds. But inside, the air was heavy with something else, fear. Aliri sat close to her mother, brushing frost from her pale cheek with slow, careful fingers. Ethan watched quietly from the corner, trying to make sense of what he had brought home. The alien woman still hadn't woken up. Her skin shimmered faintly under the thermal blanket, as if her body carried light trapped beneath the surface. It was beautiful but also strange. Aliri's eyes were the same. They glowed in the dark like soft starlight, not from technology or implants, but from something born in her. Ethan had seen hundreds of species during salvage runs, but never anything like this. He leaned forward, voice gentle. "Aliri, can I ask you something?" She nodded. "Your mother. What is her name?" "Ivexa," she said. "She was a star thinker. She made machines that live and learn." Ethan blinked. That title wasn't used anymore. Star thinkers were part of an ancient science caste, once hunted across the galaxies after a war between AI and organic life. If this was true, it meant Aliri's mother had once worked with forbidden technology, the kind that could change galaxies. "And you?" Ethan asked softly. "Are you like her?" Aliri looked down. "I don't know. Sometimes, lights move under my skin. Mama says I carry echoes. I don't know what that means." Ethan wanted to say it meant trouble, but he didn't. Instead, he stood up and opened a small drawer, pulling out a scanner. "I need to check your body temperature, just in case." He held it near her head. The screen blinked once, then shut off. "What the?" Ethan muttered. He tapped the device. turned it on again. The moment it came near Illyri, it powered down. She flinched. Did I break it? No, he said slowly. You're interfering with it somehow. Ethan checked another tool. Same result. Illyri gave a nervous smile. That happens sometimes. Mama says I bend things that don't belong to the stars anymore. Before he could ask what that meant, the room's backup lights flickered, then went dark. Only the fireplace's warm glow remained, casting long shadows. Ethan stood, alarmed. That's not right. He stepped outside, pulling on gloves. The air felt too quiet. His generator was running, but his sensors were blind. No motion alerts, no heat scans. He climbed the tower beside the outpost to reset the satellite dish, but it stopped halfway. There was something on the junk hill, a shape, too still to be part of the scrap, too large to be a beast. It moved, a silent shimmer like a cloaked figure scanning the piles below, a slow, methodical motion. Ethan crouched. Heart, THUDDING. He whispered into his earpiece. Illyri, go under the floor hatch. Take your mother with you. No response. He tried again. Illyri, listen to me. Hide now. Still nothing, he cursed, and rushed back down. Inside. The girl wasn't hiding. She was standing next to her mother, both arms stretched out. Her eyes were glowing brighter now. Her hands shimmered with white-blue veins, pulsing like tiny lightning bolts under her skin. The lights came back on. Every tool in Ethan's room powered on at once, buzzing, clicking, moving. Ethan stared. What are you doing? Illyri didn't turn. It's coming. I can feel it in the wires. She blinked once and the power shut down again. Silence. Ethan ran forward, picked her up gently. I told you to hide. I was trying to talk to the metal, she whispered. But it's scared too. He didn't understand, but there was no time. He opened the floor panel and placed her and a Vexor inside, closing it quickly and locking it from above. Then he grabbed his rifle and crouched near the entrance. The door creaked, a soft sound of steps outside. Not boots, not metal. It was the sound of skin dragging over loose wires. Ethan raised the rifle, finger on the trigger. Then something knocked, a slow, polite knock, once, twice, then silence. He held his breath. Another knock, firmer this time, then a voice deep, dry and wrong. We detected a signal here, returned the girl. And we may leave you breathing. Ethan said nothing. He stepped back from the door and whispered through the floor vent. Stay quiet, no matter what happens. He could hear Illyri breathing slowly beneath the boards, and outside, something scratched at the metal, patient and sharp. The game had started. The silence after the knock was worse than the sound itself. Ethan kept his rifle aimed at the door, finger resting lightly on the trigger, but he didn't fire. His instinct screamed that whoever or whatever was out there wanted him to make the first move, and that if he opened the door, he wouldn't be facing one thing. He'd be facing many. Below the floor, Illyri and her mother stayed hidden in the emergency chamber, surrounded by old power cells, rations, and a breathing filter. He could feel her presence through the metal, like a quiet light, pulsing in the dark. Then, without warning, something behind him beeped. The scanner on the shelf. It shouldn't have been active. It was shut down since last night. The screen glitched, and a signal appeared. A soft pulse, rhythmic, blinking red. It was coming from inside the alien pod he had dragged in yesterday. Ethan moved fast, slipping past the door and entering the back workshop. There, still dented and cracked, lay the escape pod. His tools surrounded it, open panels, cut wires, broken circuits. But one wire was glowing faintly. He leaned closer, scanning it. There it was, a hidden beacon, deep inside the control core. Not broadcasting distress, broadcasting location. He hissed under his breath. It's still calling them. Ethan didn't know how he missed it before. The pod's systems had masked it, disguised it to look like dead code, but now it was clear. Someone had planted it to make sure Illyri and her mother could always be found, or tracked. He yanked the cable out, but the signal didn't stop. He tore open the core and found a second circuit, organic wiring grown from living tech. Starthinker tech. It was broadcasting even without power. Ethan stared in horror. They weren't just following them, they knew exactly where she was. He sprinted to his control desk and opened the emergency jam protocol. It would send a pulse to block nearby receivers, but the system crashed the moment he started. No, he muttered. Not now. Suddenly, the lights turned red. A system override. The words appeared on his cracked display. Remote lock engaged retrieval unit, NROUT. Ethan froze. Whoever these slavers were, they had tech deep enough to control his systems from orbit. He ran back to the floor panel, opened it, and helped Illyri out. She looked up at him, glowing slightly in the red emergency light. They heard the beacon, he said. She nodded slowly. I felt it calling them. Before you even found us. Why didn't you say anything? He asked. I thought I could stop it, she whispered. But it's tied to me. Mama said I'm the map. Ethan blinked. What do you mean? She touched her chest softly. My blood carries something, coordinates, code, maybe more. I don't know. Mama never explained fully. A thud hit the roof. Heavy. Then another. Outside. The ground trembled. Ethan looked at Illyri. Go wake your mother. We don't have time. O'Leary dropped below the floor again. Ethan grabbed his EMP launcher from the wall and slipped out the back hatch. Cold air slammed into his face as he stepped into the junk maze up on the hill. The black ship had landed. It wasn't a normal slaver vessel. It was shaped like a spider, with long mechanical legs gripping the wreckage. A wide door opened on its side, and out stepped 6 figures. They wore no suits, no armor, just black robes that floated like smoke. Each of them had a pale face covered with silver lines. Their eyes glowed faint green, like insects. Ethan dropped behind a metal crate. Watching them, they spread out. Scanning. One of them held up a strange orb. It floated, then clicked. It said, "Blood signal confirmed. Star echo detected." Ethan's breath caught in his chest. The signal wasn't just tracking O'Leary. It was reading her genetics. They weren't coming to enslave her. They were coming to harvest her. He ducked back into the shelter, heart pounding. O'Leary and her mother were now both awake. Evexa, pale and weak, sat upright. Her eyes still glowed, but her lips trembled. "I don't have long," she said softly. Ethan leaned down. "Then talk fast. What's inside your daughter?" Evexa closed her eyes. "A key to an ancient system. We escaped after they used her to open one gate. They want her again. If they get her." She stopped and coughed hard, blood on her lips. Ethan held her shoulders. "Then we don't let them." He turned to O'Leary. "You said you feel the metal. Can you feel this beacon still calling?" She nodded. "Yes, but I think I can twist it. Maybe reverse it." "Into what?" She looked up, her small voice calm. "A scream." Ethan stared at her, then nodded. "Do it." She closed her eyes. Her body shimmered. The junk walls shook faintly. And outside, the silver-eyed slavers suddenly turned toward their ship. The beacon was screaming now. Not to call them, to scare them. The junkyard fell silent, except for one sound, a low rising hum, like a storm forming beneath the ground. O'Leary stood in the center of Ethan's shelter, arms stretched out, glowing lines running down her skin like veins of fire. Her eyes were shut tight. Her lips didn't move, but the machines around her trembled. The broken escape pod hissed. The walls creaked, and even the lights flickered with a strange rhythm. Outside, the black ship stirred. The spider-like vessel shifted its legs, pulling away from the junk piles as if spooked. The 6 slavers halted their search, now confused by the signal pouring through the air. It wasn't a location beacon anymore. It was a warning, a scream, a threat, wrapped in electricity. Ethan watched through a crack in the door, heart pounding. Ali was doing this. The girl who barely had the strength to speak yesterday was now bending energy and tech like a conductor directing music. Then she collapsed. Ethan rushed to catch her before she hit the floor. She was burning up, skin hot like a fever. Her breathing was shallow, and her glowing lines began to dim. From behind, Evexa whispered, her voice weak but steady. "She's using the starseed inside her. That power isn't meant to be used at her age." Ethan stared. Starseed. Evexa nodded. "A living code, a piece of a machine god buried in her blood to keep it from falling into wrong hands." Ethan looked down at O'Leary's face. "Well, those wrong hands are right outside." Evexa placed a hand on Ethan's arm. "If they touch her, they'll unlock everything. Worlds could fall." A loud metallic roar tore through the sky. Slaver ship responded. Its center core opened wide like a blooming metal flower, and from its heart, dozens of black drones burst into the air, spinning, silent and fast. They spread across the junkyard, scanning heat, motion, sound. One passed inches above the shelter. Ethan dragged O'Leary beneath the floor hatch again and sealed it. He moved quickly, loading his weapons, activating old defense panels he hadn't used in years. The slavers were sending machines first, like hunters testing the wind before the real chase began. The outpost flickered as energy returned for a few seconds, just enough for Ethan to arm a single turret. He whispered, Come on. The drone outside paused, then changed direction. It was heading straight for the hatch. Inside the floor chamber, O'Leary lay unconscious. Her mother sat beside her, gripping a pulse pistol with shaky hands. The drone dropped. It sliced through the outer door with a blue laser. Sparks flew, metal screeched. But before it could enter, a shotgun blast echoed through the room. Ethan had fired from behind a metal panel, blowing the drone apart in midair. Shards clattered across the floor. He didn't wait. He grabbed the for remains and pulled out its locator chip, still blinking, still transmitting. "They know," he said. A deep, distant horn blew from the slaver ship. It was a sound that made the metal groan and the air twist. Evexa looked up. "That's a calling horn. They've marked this ground for harvesting. Anyone still here will be taken or burned." Ethan slammed his fist on the table. "Then we're not staying." He opened a hidden hatch behind the main wall, leading to the junkyard tunnels below, old maintenance shafts, long forgotten. He tossed a flashlight inside and turned to Evexa. "Can you walk?" She nodded. "Barely." He lifted O'Leary into his arms and helped Evexa into the tunnel. The passage was tight, wet with condensation, and smelled like rust and mold. Ethan moved fast, taking turns based on memory, avoiding dead ends. Above them, the sky flashed. Fire rained down from the slaver ship. It was no longer searching, it was cleansing. The junkyard began to burn. Old engines exploded. Oil caught fire. Stacks of twisted metal fell like dying towers. The spider ship walked through the flames, sending down black ropes, slivers sliding down with silent grace. Scanning for signs of movement, Ethan reached a broken panel at the end of the tunnel and pushed it open. They emerged inside the heart of the junk maze where Ethan had once hidden a launch skiff, too damaged to fly, but shielded from heat scans. He placed Illyri inside, her head resting against a seat. Ivexa coughed. Falling beside her. You can't stop them, she whispered. Ethan knelt beside her. I don't plan to. I plan to escape. Suddenly, the skiff lit up. Illyri's hand moved slightly. The controls turned green. She's still connected. Ivexa breathed. She's giving you access. The old skiff roared to life. Above, the spider ship turned. It had heard them, and now it was coming. The junk maze behind them burned like a falling sun. Black smoke curled through the air. Metal towers collapsed in slow motion. Firelight danced across shattered hulls as the spider ship crept forward on its sharp legs, silent and terrible. Inside the old launch skiff, Ethan sat in the pilot seat, hands shaking as the dashboard flickered with half-broken lights. He had powered it on, but the ship was old, damaged, and barely holding together. Illyri lay beside him, weak and motionless. Her tiny hands rested in her lap, glowing veins pulsing faintly under her skin. She was still connected to the controls, but barely. Behind them, Ivexa stirred, then she moved on, slowly but clearly. Her eyes opened, and for the first time since Ethan found them, her voice was strong. Take your hands off the flight stick, she said. Ethan blinked in surprise. You're awake. I can fly this better than you, she said, sitting up straighter. She gave me access through her link, but we have only one chance. She reached out and touched the control panel. At her touch, the systems pulsed. Green. The ship groaned. The engines vibrated. The cracked display cleared for a moment and showed a single word: priority escape. Can this thing even fly? Ethan asked. It can now, Ivexa replied. The skiff lifted an inch, hovering above the ground. Dust swirled beneath it. Then an explosion rocked the tunnel behind them. The fire had reached the main fuel piles. They had seconds. Ivexa didn't wait. She pressed the thrusters, and the skiff shot forward, racing through the narrow junk tunnels like a bullet. Metal scraped the sides. Pipes burst. Sparks rained down on the windshield. Ethan gritted his teeth, bracing against the wall. I thought you were a scientist, he shouted. I was, she yelled back. But my first job was as a racer. The ship jolted upward, smashed through a rusted roof, and soared out into the open night. The sky was fire. The slaver ship saw them. It rotated with sharp speed, and its underbelly opened wide, revealing a cannon glowing with blue plasma. They're going to shoot, Ethan warned. No, Ivexa said calmly. They won't. She raised her hand toward Illyri, who was still unconscious. Now, she whispered. Give it to me. Illyri's eyes opened halfway. A single word escaped her lips, soft, like wind through leaves. And then the stars bent. Just for a moment, the night above them twisted. The clouds curled into spirals. The plasma cannon dimmed, then died. The slaver ship shook violently in the air. Ivexa's face was covered in sweat. She gave me the override code. That ship just lost its targeting systems. Ethan stared out the window. You did that from here. She did that, Ivexa corrected. I just borrowed her strength. Behind them, slaver drones rose into the sky, chasing fast. We need to get to high orbit, Ivexa said, but this ship isn't built for it. I have a jump rig, Ethan offered, hidden in the east ridge. I was fixing it before I found you too. Then hold on, she said, jerking the controls. The ship turned sharply, diving low over the burning yard. A drone clipped the wing. Sparks burst. Illyri flinched. Ethan ran to her side. Stay with us. Illyri looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. Mama can fly again. He smiled. She's doing more than that. She's fighting for you. The skiff crashed through a wall of wreckage and landed hard beside a buried cargo crate. Ethan jumped out and yanked the tarp away, revealing a small, circular pad with blinking lights. The jump rig. A short-range warp device. Ivexa hovered the skiff closer, and Ethan began loading in coordinates. Where will this take us? She asked. Out of the slaver zone, he replied. There's a safe moon. No scanners, no tech. Good, she said. She needs to sleep and heal. More drones appeared on the ridge. Plasma bolts lit up the night. Ethan ducked and fired back with his rifle, covering the rig as it charged. The slaver ship roared above them, angry, wounded, but not broken. The air was fire. The metal howled, and then the rig beeped. Ready. Yvexa carried Illyri in her arms and stepped onto the pad. She looked back at Ethan. You didn't have to help us, she said. But you did. I couldn't leave her in that junk pile, he said. She asked me. I listened. Ivexa smiled faintly. The rig powered up, and in a blink of light, they were gone. The drones reached the spot seconds later, but found nothing but smoke and dust, and the slaver ship screamed in silence. Its prey lost again. The teleport jump hit harder than a fall. Ethan's boots slammed into stone. He stumbled forward, choking on cold air. As the light from the jump rig vanished behind him, he dropped to one knee, breathing hard. The stars above were different, now sharper still and distant. They had made it. He looked around. No machines. No slaver ships. No buzzing drones. Just rock, fog, and silence. The moon they landed on was a forgotten place, once a mining colony, now dead and buried in ash. Wind howled through broken tunnels. Rusted support beams reached out of the ground. Like bones, a good place to hide. A terrible place to survive. Behind him the rig sparked. Illyri lay curled against her mother's chest, her skin pale, her glow dim. Ivexa struggled to stand, leaning heavily on Ethan. She used too much. She whispered her body wasn't ready, but she did it. Ethan laid out the survival blanket and set Illyri down gently. The girl's breaths were shallow, but steady. Her veins pulsed faintly like stars behind a veil. Ivexa knelt beside her, brushing hair from her daughter's face. She's still connected to the code inside her. It's hurting her. Can you turn it off? Ethan asked. No, Ivexa said, but I can contain it. I just need time. Ethan stood and scanned the area. He saw broken cargo towers, old mining rails, deep cracks in the surface, enough cover to stay hidden for now. But something else caught his eye. Tracks. Fresh one's boot prints in the dust. He crouched low, fingers brushing the trail. Not human. Not slaver either. Something else had passed through here recently. Something fast. With claws. He turned quickly. We're not alone. Ivexa didn't look surprised. This moon used to be a prison colony, she said. For creatures the empires didn't want to kill. Some still live in the mines. Ethan checked his weapon. You might have told me that before we landed. I thought it was abandoned, she replied. A deep growl echoed through the rocks. Not distant. Close, too close. Ethan motioned for her to stay down, then climbed up a metal slope to scout the terrain. The air was cold and sharp. His breath came out like smoke. He saw movement. Fast. Low to the ground. Not machines. Beasts. 4 of them, skittering between shadows. Their skin shimmered like oil. Their eyes glowed faint green. Long arms, no mouths. Ethan narrowed his eyes. Bio-trackers. Engineered creatures. Slaver. Pets. They followed us through the jump, he muttered. Of course they did. He slid back down and returned to the camp. We need to move, he told Ivexa now. I'll carry her, he said. If they catch our scent, they'll call the main ship. This moon won't stay safe. He scooped Illyri into his arms again and began moving toward the lower mining tunnels. They passed through twisted beams and crumbling holes. Darkness wrapped around them. The walls were lined with old rail cars, broken pickaxes, and deep holes that led. Who-knows-where. Yvexa followed close behind, her pulse pistol ready. Each sound echoed louder. A whisper, a scrape, a footstep, then a hiss. One of the creatures dropped from the ceiling, landing silently behind them. Ethan spun and fired. The bullet struck the creature's shoulder. It screeched without a mouth sound, vibrating through its skin like a speaker, and charged. Ivexa shot it again in the leg. It fell, twitching. But 2 more came through the cracks. Ethan turned and ran. They dashed through the tunnels. Illyri in his arms, the path ahead glowing only from the faint lights on Ethan's suit. Suddenly he stopped. Wall. Dead end. No exit. The beasts closed in behind them. Ivexa looked around. We're trapped. No, Ethan said, staring at the wall. There was a panel. Old, cracked but still active, a control pad. He stepped forward and placed Illyri's hand on the scanner. For a second nothing. Then the wall opened. A hidden door slid aside, revealing a sealed chamber filled with alien tech. Clean walls, glowing lights, a Starthinker vault. This is what they were trying to find, Ivexa whispered. They didn't want her blood. They wanted the lock she could open. Ethan carried Illyri inside. The beasts hissed outside the door. Ivexa fired a final blast, then slammed the panel. The door closed, locking with a sound like thunder. They were inside, safe for now. But as Ethan looked at the glowing walls filled with strange code and whispering energy, he knew something bigger was waiting in the dark. Something ancient, something hungry. The hidden vault hummed like a living heart, and its bright walls threw soft light over Ethan's worried face. The door behind him bulging from claws outside, while Illyri lay still in his arms. Ivexa knelt by glowing floor symbols, eyes wide. She knew these marks. She once designed them in research halls lost to war. A voice filled the air, calm and cold, asking for a passkey. It belonged to the vault itself. Identify the star. Echo. Illyri's eyelids fluttered. Thin lines of light raced under her skin. The vault recognized her but wanted full proof. Ethan set her on a bench shaped like an open shell. Metal pedals folded around her. Ivexa pressed a panel, telling the system to heal the child first. Orange beams scanned Illyri. Her breathing steadied. Vital signs restored. Core code locked. Shall we open the archive? Outside, beasts kept ramming the door. Iron groaned. Ethan said, we need something to stop them. The archive holds seeds, not guns, Ivexa answered. Living programs that reshape matter. Use them in anger and they turn wild. Another crash bent the hinge. Ethan faced the interface. Open for protection. Defend the girl. Panels unfolded. From the floor a clear sphere rose, swirling with silver threads. Guardian protocol ready. A bearer is required. Illyri woke. Eyes soft. I trust him. The sphere split and poured into Ethan's chest. Warm energy raced through him. Veins lit, then faded. Claws scraped metal. A final slam cracked the door. Ethan lifted his hand. The new power mapped every bolt. Metal knitted itself strong again. The beasts snarled, confused. Far above the spider ship landed. Scans targeted the vault. Incoming strike in 90 seconds, the voice warned. Evexa gripped Ethan's arm. Use the Guardian, shape a path. Ethan closed his eyes. He saw the mine tunnels like bright threads and the slaver ship as a cold shadow drawing power. We could flee, he said, but they will hunt others. He turned to Illyri. Guide me, she nodded. Think of a shield bigger than fear. Ethan pressed both palms to the floor core. Living metal beneath the moon stirred. Rails, beams, and rock rose, twisting into a giant shell around the mine. On the surface, the slaver cannon charged. Blue plasma gathering, the cannon fired. The shell blazed orange but held. Energy spread across its plates and bled into the ground. Slaver sensors screamed. A second blast met the same fate. The shield feeds on their heat, Evexa whispered. Ethan felt the storm inside him. Can we return it? Only if the shield gets a heart, she said. Illyri placed her small hand over Ethan. Silver light flowed between them, then back through the shell. Above, the barrier opened like a flower, caught the third shot, and hurled it upward. The beam punched through the slaver hull. Engines burst, legs shattered. Fire swallowed the black vessel. It tried to lift, failed, and crashed beyond the ridge, a broken star lighting the horizon. Silence spread over the moon. The vault door unlocked. Outside, stunned beasts lay still. Ethan felt the Guardian settle quiet under his skin. Illyri stood, steadier than before. She took his hand. You listened when I cried in the junkyard. You carried me when I was weak. Now we carry each other. Evexa smiled. The star code chose well. They stepped into the calm night. Wind moved through broken beams like music. Behind them the vault's voice offered parting gifts, releasing small drones shaped like seeds that held nanosoil and clean water capsules. Evexa gathered them into a satchel. These will grow forests on any barren rock, she explained. Starthinkers planned to rebuild worlds, not rule them. Ethan thought of the junk planet where he found the girl, hills of metal choking, the ground skies filled with smoke. He pictured those hills covered in green. Hope felt heavier than a rifle, but warm. He returned to dismantle the beacon that still blinked on the bench. With the Guardian's touch, he melted its circuits into harmless glass and buried the shard under stone. No hunter would trace that signal again. As he emerged, Evexa handed him a slender crystal key. Any Starthinker vault you meet will know you now, she said. You are their guardian too. Ethan tucked the key against his chest where the sphere had entered. Gentle pulse answered, as if the code inside him agreed. Illyri raised her gaze to the sky. A streak of light marked the ship's debris burning in the upper atmosphere. He smiled.